There comes a time when what we call fighting is no longer strength, it's just resistance. When the real pain is not in the wound itself, but in our refusal to release it. The Stoics remind us, not all suffering is necessary. Some of it we choose, by rehearsing the same story, by reliving the same moment, by carrying what is long gone. In doing so, we harm ourselves twice, once from the event and again from our attachment to it. This is where the art of letting go begins, not through avoidance, not by numbing or forgetting, but by seeing clearly, accepting fully, and returning our focus to the only place it truly belongs, where our power still exists. This is a discipline, not sentimentality. It is not easy, but it is essential. Epictetus reminds us, when something happens, the only thing in our control is our response. And that response can either be a chain that keeps us bound or a key that sets us free. In this video, we will explore the Stoic way to inner peace. Let it be, let it pass. How to release what we cannot control, make peace with what has passed, and step with grace into what is here now. Number 1. The trap of attachment. Why do we suffer? Often, it's not because the world has hurt us, but because we expected it not to. The Stoic does not believe the world owes them peace, fairness, or permanence. They expect the storms. They prepare their soul for shifting winds. Attachment is the root of repeated pain. We cling to roles, outcomes, identities, timelines. We tell ourselves life must unfold a certain way. And when it doesn't, we resist. We insist it shouldn't be this way. The longer we deny this truth, the longer we remain prisoners of what no longer exists. The Stoic sees clearly, nothing is promised, so nothing can truly be taken away. No relationship, no possession, no dream is guaranteed. Everything we hold is, at best, on temporary loan from the hands of fate. To believe otherwise is to invite inevitable heartache. The Stoic learns to hold things lightly, not from fear, not from cold detachment, but from a deep understanding of how the world works. They know that clinging turns love into fear, because now the joy is shadowed by the terror of loss. It turns plans into pressure, because now they must succeed for happiness to survive. So the Stoic loves fully, but without ownership. They live wholeheartedly, yet without the illusion of permanence. They give their heart generously, but do not anchor their emotional balance to the continued presence of anything or anyone. They plan with care, but always with a quiet clause, if fate allows. Their calm is not born from controlling outcomes, but from the ability to adapt gracefully to whatever unfolds. This way of living creates a quiet, unshakable strength. It makes them both rooted and flexible. Change does not break them, because they have not staked their peace on the world staying the same. Their anchor is not in shifting circumstances, but in the clarity of their own mind. So they do not rage when fortune turns. They knew it would. They do not protest when fate rearranges the pieces. They expected it to. Their aim is not to freeze time or cling to comfort, but to remain upright in every season. They are balanced, not because the world is steady, but because they are steady within themselves. And this is often misunderstood. To hold loosely is not to care less. To remain calm is not to withdraw. The Stoic is not cold. They are deeply committed. But their commitment is turned inward, to virtue, to wisdom, to reason, not to illusions of control. They refuse to tie their joy to the unpredictable or their worth to the approval of others. Because to build peace on anything outside oneself is to build a house on sand. When the storm comes, and it always will, such a house falls. But the Stoic builds differently. They build within. When peace is anchored to character, to effort, to values, no storm can take it away. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "Receive without pride. Let go without attachment." It is the practice of radical emotional responsibility, When something good enters your life, welcome it. Be present with it. Celebrate it. But do not wrap your identity around it. Do not make your soul dependent on its continuation. When it leaves, as all things eventually do, release it with gratitude, not bitterness. You have not lost it. It was never yours to keep. You were a steward, not an owner. And this is both the challenge and the invitation. Can you hold what you love with open hands? Can you honor what is beautiful without trying to trap it? Can you live fully in the presence of something without turning it into a prison? This is the Stoic's posture, moving through life with the knowledge that everything borrowed from the world must one day be returned. Nothing we cherish today is promised tomorrow. Every embrace is finite. Every conversation is the last of its kind. Every moment once lived is gone. Far from making life bleak, this truth makes it sacred. The Stoic does not grow cold in the face of impermanence. They grow more alive, more reverent, more grateful. They do not cling, they consecrate. They do not hoard, they honor. And when the end comes, they do not demand a reason. They offer a quiet thank you. For them, loss is not the theft of meaning. It is the reminder of it. Gratitude grows deeper, not weaker, in the shadow of endings. Because they understand everything is a gift, and no gift is ever owed. This awareness softens the Stoic. It dissolves entitlement. It replaces grasping with grace. They no longer meet life with clenched fists, but with an open hand. They no longer mistake control for security, or attachment for love. Loss and reflection have taught them that the tighter they grip, the faster things slip away. And when you live this way, you become less brittle, more resilient. You bend with change instead of breaking beneath it. That is real strength. In practice, letting go often begins with language. Listen to the words you speak, to yourself, to others, to the world. Do you say "I need" when you really mean "I want"? Do you declare "this must happen" when you simply hope that it will? These subtle shifts reveal deeper truths. They mark the boundary between illusion and reality. And when your words change, your inner posture begins to change too. You move from attachment to engagement, from control to cooperation, from fear to flow. Transformation rarely begins with grand gestures. It begins in the quiet, in the words you choose, in the expectations you release, in the open hands you extend to the present moment. Letting go is not a single act. It is a way of being, a way of moving through the world with grace instead of grasping. It is a way of saying, "I trust myself to meet whatever comes, and to release whatever goes." This is the essence of Stoic peace, not the absence of care, but the clarity to see what is within your control and what never was. Let the rest go, let the world be, and live free. Number 2, the wisdom of nature. The Stoics believed in aligning with nature, not only with the beauty of forests, rivers, and stars, but with the deeper pattern that governs all things, how they arise, change, and eventually fade away. Nature, to them, was not a backdrop. It was a teacher, a mirror, a quiet, patient reminder that nothing is fixed, nothing is guaranteed, and nothing truly belongs to us. The nature of life itself is transition, impermanence, flow. Nature does not cling. It does not protest the falling of a leaf, nor resist the turning of a season. It moves. It allows each form to have its time, and then it lets it go. The flower blooms, then wilts. The tree grows, bends, and one day returns to the soil. There is no shame in the ending, no outrage at change, only movement and peace in that rhythm. A leaf falls, a season ends, a storm rises and then passes. The river shapes stone, not by force, but by steady, patient persistence. Nothing in nature resists its role in the whole. Nothing demands permanence, and nothing laments impermanence. Only the human mind does this. Only we interrupt the flow with stories. Stories of how it should have gone, how long it should have lasted, how it was never supposed to end. When life hurts, it is often because we are out of rhythm. We want winter to behave like summer. We want calm to last forever. We want people to stay when it is time for them to leave. We want death to reverse itself, endings to become beginnings, and outcomes to obey our preferences. Nature does not flinch at change. It embraces it as part of its very essence. It transforms, not because it is forced to, but because it understands that transformation is the only constant. The Stoic trains themselves to do the same. They observe the world, not to escape it, but to learn how to live in harmony with it. If something ends, it was meant to. If someone leaves, they were never truly meant to stay. If a door closes, it is because the path it led to has reached its end. This is not resignation. It is not despair. It is wisdom, clear, calm, and courageous. It is the art of seeing the deeper flow beneath appearances, the quiet undercurrent beneath the surface noise. The Stoic does not plead for permanence. They prepare for transition. To live in alignment with nature is to stop fearing the inevitable, to ride the wave instead of fighting the tide. This shift can begin in the smallest of moments. Watching day give way to night, noticing how the body changes over time, observing how every conversation has its rise and fall. Slowly, we begin to see everything is always in motion, and peace does not come from stopping the motion, but from moving with it. To live this way, practice a daily meditation on impermanence. Sit in stillness and reflect. What has changed in your life? What have you outgrown? What has passed? What once felt essential, but no longer defines you? In this reflection, there is no need for sorrow. There is space for honor, for grace. Practice gratitude not only for what remains, but for what once was, for what came and left, for what taught you and then moved on. The value was never in its permanence. It was in its presence, in the simple, profound fact that it existed at all. The time shared, the experience given, the moment lived. These do not need to last forever to be sacred. They only ask for our full attention while they are here. This is why the Stoic's gratitude is not naive. It is grounded. It does not rely on promises or guarantees. It does not say, "I will be thankful as long as nothing changes." It says, "I will be thankful because everything changes." That is why Epictetus could write with such strength and such softness. Do not demand that things happen as you wish. Wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. This is not passivity. This is inner mastery. When you walk with this mindset, your relationship with life changes. You no longer argue with reality. You no longer brace against what is natural. You flow. You release when it is time. You hold lightly. You move with things as they move through you. And quietly, you discover a calm that does not depend on what stays, but on your ability to bless what leaves. This is the wisdom of nature. It is not loud, not dramatic. It is steady, constant, and profound. And it is always available to those willing to look, to listen, and to learn. Number 3, resisting reality is a form of suffering. When we resist what is, we suffer twice. First, from the pain itself, then from our refusal to let it be. Pain may knock once, but resistance opens the door again and again, replaying the wound until it becomes a pattern. Often, what hurts us most is not the event itself, but our insistence that it should not have happened. The Stoics understood this deeply. Life, to them, was never free of heartbreak, loss, betrayal, or injustice. They knew such things were part of the human landscape, unavoidable, unpredictable, and often beyond our control. These hardships were not exceptions to the rule. They were the rule, not glitches in the system, but essential threads in the fabric of reality. Yet most suffering does not arise from the hardship itself, but from our mental protest against it. We say, "This shouldn't have happened," or "I can't believe this is real." And in that protest, the mind becomes its own executioner. It loops, it rewinds, it adds layers of judgment to emotions already raw. The Stoic practice is to interrupt that loop, to bring perception back into alignment with reality, not with resignation, but with resolve. The Stoic asks, "What is true here?" and then responds rather than reacts. They say, "This is what happened. Now, what will I do with it?" They do not ask, "Why me?" because they understand it was always going to be someone. And if it is now them, then they are called not to collapse, but to confront, to step into the role of responder, not victim. This mindset removes the poison from pain. Resistance adds weight, anger, denial, bitterness, self-pity. Acceptance distills pain back to its essence, raw, real, but now workable. It frees the energy once trapped in protest and redirects it into adaptation, into grace, even into gratitude. It allows for action, even in suffering. It creates space for healing, even in heartbreak. Acceptance does not mean you feel nothing. It does not require you to be unshaken or immune to sadness. The Stoic is not without emotion. They are disciplined in its use. They do not deny grief. They allow it, but they do not drown in it. They watch the waves as they rise and fall, knowing that no emotion, however strong, is permanent, unless we chain ourselves to it. You can feel sorrow without building a home inside it. You can feel anger without turning it into your identity. You can feel loss and still decide that it will not define the rest of your life. The Stoic understands that emotions are like weather, temporary, shifting, and natural. What matters is not whether they come, but how you prepare for them and how you endure them. So the next time something unwelcome arrives, an insult, a loss, a betrayal, pause, step back. Ask yourself, what exactly am I resisting here? Is it the event itself, or my thoughts about it? Often, it is the mental story, the belief that this is unfair, that it ruins everything, that I cannot go on, that turns pain into paralysis. This single question, simple yet sharp, can pierce the illusion. It can break the trance of victimhood. It can return you to the present, where reality lives, where choice still exists, where freedom can be found. This is what the Stoics called prohairesis, your capacity to choose your internal response, regardless of external events. And in that presence, you may see something clearly. Reality itself rarely breaks us. It is our resistance to reality that does. Reality, in its unfiltered form, is often painful, but it is bearable. What makes it unbearable is the added burden of it shouldn't be this way. Here lies the Stoics' quiet strength, the ability to see life as it is, not as they wish it to be. They do not decorate pain with delusion. They do not postpone peace with denial. They meet what is hard, not with bitterness, but with presence. And presence, unlike resistance, does not multiply suffering. It softens it. To be Stoic is to say, yes, this hurts, and yet I remain. Yes, I would have chosen otherwise, and yet I will meet what has come. This is not weakness. This is not surrender. This is wisdom in motion. It is what makes healing possible. In the end, suffering is not proof that life is broken. It is proof that we are alive. But how long we suffer, and how deeply we let that suffering define us, that is within our power. Pain may visit, but we decide whether it unpacks its bags and stays. Let your suffering be a guest, not your landlord. Greet it, listen to it, learn from it, and when the time is right, invite it to leave. That is the Stoic way. Number 4. The grace of acceptance. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not giving up. It is not a shrug of defeat or a passive surrender to fate. Acceptance is an act of clear-eyed courage. It is standing face to face with life, however unfamiliar, however painful, however different from what you imagined, and saying, "I will meet you as you are." It is the strength to greet reality without waiting for it to change first. It is choosing truth over illusion, presence over fantasy. This is one of the hardest disciplines in Stoic practice, because the ego, that small, frightened, controlling self, wants to fight. It wants to rewrite the past, relitigate the injustice, rearrange what has already happened. It wants to argue with time, to demand a different version of events. It wants vengeance for what hurt and certainty for what is to come. It longs to return to what was lost, even if it was never truly ours to keep. But the Stoic soul sees further. It knows no amount of protest can undo the past. It understands that grieving is natural, but clinging is a choice. Holding on is not loyalty, it is delay. And delay keeps us in emotional limbo, no longer where we were, yet not fully where we are. The Stoic understands that peace does not come from rewriting the past, but from loosening the grip we have on it. Acceptance is not passive. It is fiercely active. It is the choice to stop feeding the fire of resentment, to stop pouring energy into what cannot be changed. It is the courage to step out of the story that keeps you stuck and return to the truth that can set you free. It is the wisdom to see that life, in all its mystery, its cruelty, its wonder, moves forward whether we resist it or not. And it is the strength to choose to move with it. To accept is not to say this is good, but to say this is what is. It is the humility to admit, I do not understand this. I do not like this. But I will face it with grace. It is the wisdom to acknowledge, this is beyond me. I do not need to control it to continue. This is not defeat. It is maturity. It is a powerful surrender, the kind that opens the heart instead of hardening it. When you lose something dear, a person you love, a version of yourself, a future you hoped for, practice this. Close your eyes, breathe, slow your thoughts. Place your hand over your heart and repeat silently. This too belongs. I do not need to understand it yet. I only need to accept that it has come. These words are not a spell. They do not remove pain, but they invite you to stop resisting, to sit with it, to honor it, to let it pass through you instead of letting it define you. They create a stillness in which healing can begin. Do not force meaning. Do not rush to make sense of what hurts. Meaning is not always instant. It does not always arrive wrapped in clarity. Sometimes it whispers after the storm, not during it. Sometimes you do not find meaning. You make it, slowly, deliberately, through how you live in the aftermath. Through courage, through kindness, through the quiet decision to keep going when you could have given up. Sometimes the only clarity we are granted is this: it happened, and now I must rise. There is grace in that sentence. There is strength in those 7 words. Not the strength that roars, but the strength that endures, that continues, that refuses to be broken by what it cannot change. To accept is to walk forward without needing to carry the wreckage. To say, this chapter is over, and though it left marks on me, it will not become the whole book. It is the courage to turn the page even if your hands are still trembling. This is what the Stoics call living in agreement with nature. Not nature as serenity, but nature as reality, as the flow of life itself. You stop demanding different outcomes. You stop bargaining with the past. You start honoring the moment as it is. And in doing so, something remarkable happens. You begin to return to yourself. Not the self you were before the loss, but the self tempered by it. A quieter, wiser, more compassionate self. A self that knows peace is not found in control, but in presence. That is the grace of acceptance. That is the gift the Stoics point toward. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain no longer owns us. Where our peace does not depend on perfection, and our spirit remains intact even when the world does not. Number 5. Letting go is an act of strength. Many mistake it for weakness, as if it means surrender, walking away, or giving up. As if it means you didn't care deeply enough or weren't strong enough to hold on. The truth is the opposite. Letting go requires a kind of strength that holding on often does not. It asks for clarity over comfort, courage over familiarity, faith over fear. It is not an act of escape. It is an act of maturity. It takes strength to walk away from what no longer serves your growth, to loosen your grip on something that once defined you, to acknowledge that something once beautiful has reached its natural end. It takes quiet bravery to stop chasing what has become a shadow and to stand still in the presence of uncertainty. It takes spiritual muscle to resist the urge to return to what is familiar, even when it no longer nourishes you. It takes even more strength to release someone who cannot or will not meet you with the presence, honesty, or depth that you offer, not out of bitterness or revenge, but out of self-respect, out of love for what your heart deserves. To say, "This hurts, but I will not abandon myself to hold on to what slips away," is to choose alignment over attachment. It takes courage to admit that a dream has changed, that a path you once longed to walk now feels hollow, that the identity you wore proudly no longer fits the person you are becoming. To release old roles, old stories, old timelines, and to step into the unknown with open hands is one of the greatest acts of Stoic courage. The Stoic practices letting go not with anger, but with awareness. They do not curse the door that closed. They understand that everything has its hour, and some doors are only meant to open once. They do not stand frozen before what has ended, begging it to return. Instead, they turn their gaze toward what comes next, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Their dignity is not in controlling outcomes, but in controlling their attitude toward them. They do not measure strength by what they cling to, but by how gracefully they move through change. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering without being haunted. It is loving without becoming dependent. It is grieving with movement. It is saying, "This mattered deeply to me, and still, I will not let it cage my spirit." You do not dishonor the past by releasing it. You honor it by acknowledging its place and not forcing it to be more than it was. Letting go is not the absence of love. It is the maturation of love. Love that no longer needs to possess to appreciate. Grief that no longer needs to consume to be felt. Pain that no longer directs your next step to be acknowledged. To let go is not to erase. It is to carry forward what is meaningful and leave behind what is no longer life-giving. In practice, let go through small, deliberate rituals. Write a letter you never send. Give yourself permission to speak what needs saying without needing it to be heard. Light a candle and release a name. Walk through a place that reminds you of what was and whisper, "Thank you. I set you down now." Speak words you do not expect to hear back. Stand still. Take a deep breath and say, "I release this, not because I didn't love, but because I did. And I choose to love myself enough to move on." Letting go does not make the pain disappear. It means the pain no longer dictates your path. It no longer holds the map. It no longer decides what you are allowed to become. The ache may remain, but it softens. It no longer binds you to the past. It becomes something you carry with reverence, not regret. The Stoic lets go as an act of inner alignment, not to escape discomfort, but to return to their center. They do not abandon responsibility. They reclaim it. They choose to live, not in reaction to what is gone, but in harmony with what remains. And in that choice, there is real freedom. In that release, there is real power. Because letting go is not losing. It is choosing. Choosing peace over illusion, growth over nostalgia, truth over control. Let go, not because you are weak, but because you are finally strong enough to. Number 6, pain is not the problem. Pain is not the enemy. It is not a punishment. It is not always a signal that something has gone wrong. Pain is part of the human contract. To live is to hurt. Sometimes to grow is to be stretched. To care is to open yourself to loss. Even to hope is to risk disappointment. The Stoics did not seek to eliminate pain. That would be impossible. Instead, they sought to understand it, to reframe it, to place it where it belongs, not as a curse, but as a companion, a quiet messenger in the shaping of the soul. Pain for the Stoic is not avoided. It is studied. It is examined with calm and curiosity. It is listened to with care. They do not flinch from discomfort because some truths only come dressed in suffering. Some strength is revealed only when everything else falls away. There are insights in pain that comfort could never offer. When it arrives, the Stoic does not panic. They breathe. They ask, "Why are you here? What part of me needs to grow in order to meet you?" This is the turning point, when pain becomes not just something to endure, but something to learn from. It is not always the pain that breaks us, but our story about the pain. The belief that it shouldn't be happening, the fear that it will never end, the assumption that it makes us weak. But what if pain is not a sign of failure, but a sign of aliveness, of evolution? What if pain is not the villain, but the invitation? Real suffering begins when we turn pain into identity, when we hold on longer than necessary, when we say, "This happened to me," and forget to add, "and I am still becoming." Pain is meant to pass through us like weather, not to become the architecture of our lives. The Stoic allows it to pass. They do not suppress it, nor do they dramatize it. They experience it with honesty, and they contain it with composure. They feel deeply, but they do not drown. They hurt, but they also heal. They do not wear their pain as armor, nor display it as decoration. They carry it like a lesson, not a legacy. Here is the paradox. By facing pain directly, we loosen its grip. When we stop running from it, we stop being ruled by it. When we stop fearing it, we begin to transform it. Pain, when seen clearly, can be a path, a sacred teacher, a revealer of our attachments, illusions, and hidden expectations. It shows us where we are still clutching, still resisting, still afraid to surrender to the truth of impermanence. It illuminates the parts of ourselves still seeking approval, still avoiding vulnerability, still hoping for permanence in a world built on change. Pain can expose the falsehoods we tell ourselves about what we need, about who we are, about the control we imagine we have. But it only offers these revelations if we are willing to look directly at it. Not to flinch, not to numb, but to listen. The Stoic does not waste life waiting for pain to disappear. They do not pause their purpose until the feeling passes. They do not bargain with fate. They accept what is and they work within it. They say, "This hurts, but while I am hurting, I will also be learning. I will also be living. I will also be becoming." So when pain arrives, try something different. Do not rush to fix it. Release the panic that it must be resolved immediately. Sit with it. Name it. Ask it. What are you trying to show me that I have not yet been willing to see? Let it burn away illusions, illusions of control, permanence, immunity. Let it strip away what no longer serves you. Let it clarify your values and reorder your priorities. Let it ask you the hard questions. Who are you without what you lost? What matters now? Who do you choose to become, even with this ache? In this way, pain stops being a wall and becomes a threshold. It stops being an obstacle and becomes a mirror. You begin to see not just what hurts, but who you are becoming through it. You rise from the ashes with more clarity, more humility, more strength. Pain embraced with awareness becomes sacred ground. True peace is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of strength within it. It is the steadiness that says, yes, this hurts, but I do not crumble. It is the quiet voice that says, I am not my suffering. I am the one who endures it. It is the understanding that life may break us open, but what flows from that opening can be wisdom, not weakness, compassion, not collapse, grace, not grievance. This is Stoic strength, not invulnerability, but the invincibility of spirit. Not escaping life's suffering, but meeting it with dignity and depth. It is the ability to say, I let the world be, even when it wounds me. I let the pain come, and I do not let it harden me. I walk forward, not because I am untested, but because I am unwavering. That is what it means to suffer well. That is what it means to grow through fire. That is what it means to let go and still live. Number 7, the power of stillness. In a world that constantly demands noise, motion, and reaction, stillness is an act of defiance. The Stoic does not chase every ripple in the current. They do not leap at every sound, every mirror, every movement. They remain still, not out of apathy, but out of focus. Stillness is their strategy. Stillness is their sanctuary. Stillness is their strength. Stillness is not laziness. It is not disinterest. It is clarity. It is composure in the face of chaos. It is the quiet pause before a wise response. The Stoic understands that movement without direction is distraction, and reaction without reflection is weakness. So they cultivate the rare and radical art of inner stillness. Stillness is not the absence of activity. It is the absence of scatteredness. It is presence. It is a full return to the moment where nothing is pulled from the past and nothing is worried from the future. In stillness, the Stoic hears the truth beneath the noise. They watch their impulses rise and fall without obeying them. They observe the world without rushing to interfere. This discipline allows for better judgment. It creates space for perspective. When others are swept up in fear, outrage, or urgency, the Stoic remains grounded. They choose when to speak, when to move, when to engage. They are not baited by every provocation. They are not hijacked by every emotion. Stillness is the moment between the spark and the fire. It is the breath before the arrow flies. It is the silence before the decision. The one who learns to inhabit that space becomes the master of their own fate. They do not live reactively. They live intentionally. In your own life, carve out moments of stillness. Before responding, pause. Before deciding, breathe. Let reactions settle. Let thoughts clear. Create space. In that space, wisdom rises. In that silence, your true voice speaks. This is where the Stoic lives. Not in noise, but in depth. Not in haste, but in truth. Stillness is not an escape from life. It is a doorway into it. The world may swirl and spin, but within the Stoic, there is a center that holds. And in that still point, they find their power. They find their peace. They let the world be and remain unshaken within it. Number 8, freedom through detachment. The Stoics spoke often of detachment, but not as coldness or indifference. Detachment is not a rejection of emotion or love. It is a deep respect for the nature of things. It is the wisdom of loving what is without needing it to remain. It is the discipline of holding joy without fear and meeting loss without collapse. Detachment is not a void. It is a vantage point. To be detached does not mean withdrawing from life. It means stepping back far enough to see clearly. It is to engage without clinging, to commit without control, to love without dependency. When the Stoic practices detachment, they do not become numb. They become wise. They realize that everything they love will change, and they choose to love it anyway. This freedom through detachment allows them to experience life more deeply, not less. They are not distracted by anxiety over what might be lost, nor paralyzed by the fear of change. They are present precisely because they do not try to trap what is fleeting. They understand that the tighter you grip, the more fragile everything becomes. To practice detachment is to walk through the world with open hands. To let what comes, come. To let what goes, go. It is not avoidance. It is trust. Trust that what is meant for you will stay as long as it is meant to. Trust that your peace is not held hostage by circumstance. In practice, detachment can look like choosing not to argue over what cannot be changed. It can mean releasing the need for closure from someone who will not give it. It can mean pursuing your goals without tying your worth to the outcome. It is the art of investing effort without surrendering your equilibrium. The Stoic reminds themselves daily, I can enjoy this, but I do not own it. I can cherish this, but I am not entitled to its permanence. From this reminder grows resilience, the ability to love fully without collapsing when the shape of that love changes. True detachment is not isolation. It is freedom. Freedom to feel, to act, to live, without being ruled by fear or fixation. Freedom to participate in life fully, knowing you remain whole even when what you love transforms or departs. This is how the Stoic lives, not hardened but clear, not disconnected but grounded. They walk forward with an open heart and an untethered spirit. They do not need to force the world to stay a certain way. They let the world be and remain free within it. Number 9, the strength to begin again. The Stoic does not measure their life by what has ended, but by what they are willing to begin again. Endings are inevitable. Projects fail. Relationships shift. Identities dissolve. Plans unravel. People change. Dreams die quiet deaths. But what defines the Stoic is not their ability to prevent these closures. It is their refusal to let them be final. They do not confuse failure with finality. They do not mistake the closing of a chapter for the end of the book. To live is to begin again, often many times in a single lifetime. To begin again is not to erase what was lost, nor to pretend it did not matter. It is to acknowledge it fully, to honor what once was, and still choose to move forward with an open heart. It is to carry the lessons, the scars, the moments, and use that wisdom to build something stronger, truer, and more aligned with who you have become. The Stoic does not deny the pain of the past, but neither do they remain its prisoner. They let the wound breathe without allowing it to define them. They let the memory exist without letting it lead. Healing is not a return to who they once were. It is a quiet transformation into someone wiser, more compassionate, more whole. Beginnings are difficult. They demand courage, not because success is promised, but because you are willing to move forward despite uncertainty. To begin again is to step into the unknown with open hands. It is to place your foot where the path is invisible and say, "Still, I will walk." This is not the strength of knowing. It is the strength of showing up without certainty. This is not weakness. This is bravery in its purest form when no one is watching. Beginnings require vulnerability, the kind that persists after being wounded, yet still chooses to love, to dream, to try, to believe, to risk again. It is the decision to re-engage with life without the armor of cynicism, without the shield of distance. To begin again is to be tender and courageous at once. The Stoic does not see this as frailty. They see it as discipline. the discipline to refuse fear, the power to make you small. They do not seek perfection. They are committed to motion. They do not ask, "Will this work out?" They ask, "What is the next right step I can take?" They are not frozen by uncertainty. They are guided by clarity. Life moves forward, and so must they. Forward may mean stumbling, rebuilding, trying again. The Stoic says, "If one path ends, I will find another. If a door closes, I will knock elsewhere. If I am emptied, I will refill, drop by drop, breath by breath, day by day." The strength to begin again does not come from the absence of fear, but from continuing despite it. It is not fearlessness. It is faithfulness to the journey. It is not bravado or blind confidence. It is quiet resolve, a determination that seeks no applause, needs no proof. It is the willingness to remain in the flow of life even when bruised, even when faith wavers. It is the steadiness that says, "I will not give up on the possibility of better, not because it is guaranteed, but because I refuse to let this be the end of me." This is not delusion. This is earned hope. Hope nurtured in the storm, watered by grief, shaped by every moment you chose not to quit. It is the quiet knowing that if you can hurt and still love, fall and still rise, lose and still try, then there is something in you the world cannot touch, and that is sacred. In daily practice, beginning again rarely arrives as a grand declaration. It comes as a whisper, a quiet, almost invisible act of self-respect. Rewriting a dream on paper after the old one has passed. Sitting with your journal instead of dwelling in regret. Forgiving someone who never offered an apology, because you deserve the peace they could not give. Taking a walk instead of sinking deeper into despair. Choosing nourishment over self-reproach. Sitting in stillness and saying quietly to yourself, "Today, I will not unravel." Sometimes beginning again is no more than getting out of bed when your soul feels heavy. When your limbs ache from sadness and each breath feels labored. When the day ahead seems like a mountain you are not ready to climb. In these moments, the Stoic focuses on the simplest acts, those often unseen, yet transformative. You open the curtains and let the light touch your face. You pour a glass of water as if honoring its presence. You stretch, not to conquer, but to feel your body still alive. You sit on the edge of the bed and whisper, not boldly, but with quiet truth, "I am not done yet." This is not dramatic. It is not glamorous, but it is sacred. It is the quiet heroism of the wounded, choosing presence over surrender. The Stoic does not romanticize suffering, but they recognize the strength hidden in these humble restarts. They do not wait for miraculous transformations. They honor the subtle moment, the one in which the soul, despite everything, says yes again to life. They understand that courage often wears the face of fatigue, that sometimes beginning again is simply the quiet act of not giving up. They do not demand a cinematic rebirth. They do not wait for fireworks or epiphanies. They trust the steady, persistent return. True healing does not announce itself. It unfolds slowly, almost imperceptibly. It looks like brushing your teeth through tears. It looks like cooking dinner while grief still lingers in your chest. It looks like saying yes to small actions you once avoided, answering messages, stepping outside, believing in your body again. The Stoic knows that repetition is its own form of redemption. One quiet act of care, repeated with dignity, becomes a ritual of restoration. They understand that healing is often mundane. The body remembers before the mind does. Small acts, showers, journaling, walking, reaching out, become seeds of renewal. So they plant them, not because they feel strong, but because they choose loyalty to the process of becoming strong again. The Stoic honors the restart, not for its grandeur, but for its reality. It takes everything to begin again, when everything still hurts. This is what it means to rise after the fall, not to erase the pain or dismiss the past, but to refuse to let it dictate the rest of your story. To say, yes, I was broken. Yes, I bled. Yes, it nearly ended me. And still, I choose to stand. To look at the wreckage and walk through it, to gather what remains, to collect the pieces and say, these are still mine. I will build with them again. To let your past inform you, but not imprison you. To take your scars and let them guide you, not shame you. To begin again, not because you are fully healed, but because healing is found in the act of trying. To begin again is not denial of pain. It is the quiet, unshakable affirmation of possibility. It says, I still believe something good can emerge from me. It is the recognition that your soul, though bruised, still contains something bright. That though your steps may be slower now, you are still moving forward. That though your voice may tremble, it still speaks. That though you carry grief, you remain capable of joy. And in this, there is a sacred paradox, a quiet declaration that life may have altered you, but it has not erased you. That within you still exists something unbroken, something noble, something resilient, something quiet yet ready, something worth showing up for. In this truth, you reclaim your power, not by force, but by faith. Faith in the steady, patient process of becoming whole again. Faith that beginning again, even here, even now, is sufficient. This is Stoic resilience, not loud, not celebrated, not always understood, but real, alive, living in the breath between tears, in the stillness before dawn, in the heartbeat that whispers, we try again. The strength to begin again is not merely the strength to rebuild a life. It is the strength to believe in one, to believe in peace even after chaos, to believe in tomorrow even after ruin, to believe in yourself, not because you feel strong, but because you choose to act as though you are. That is the strength that preserves the soul. That is the strength that keeps the inner flame alive. That is the strength that quietly, steadily begins again. Number 10, let the world be and be at peace within it. The Stoics' final lesson is not withdrawal, but harmony. Not isolation, but integration. They do not seek escape from life's turbulence. They seek presence and calm at the center of it. To walk among noise, loss, and change, and remain grounded, steady, clear. To let the world be as it is and to become who you must. There is profound freedom in this. To stop arguing with reality. To stop expecting the world to bend to your desires. To stop demanding that others behave, respond, or love according to your imagination. When the Stoic says, let the world be, they are not surrendering. They are rising above. They are choosing to anchor peace where comfort is not guaranteed. Letting the world be does not mean passive acceptance of injustice. It means seeing clearly what is yours to carry and what is not. It is recognizing the limits of your influence and directing your strength, compassion, and focus where it can truly matter. The Stoic knows life is a flowing river of beginnings and endings, gains and losses. They do not clutch the current. They navigate it. They swim. They float. They endure. Sometimes they meet the tide with resistance. Sometimes they surrender to it. But always with awareness, always with choice. When someone leaves, the Stoic understands they were never theirs to keep. When something ends, they say, this too had its time. When uncertainty arises, they pause and say, let me meet this with stillness. In these responses, they reclaim their life. Arguing with reality brings suffering. Aligning with it, saying, let it be and let me meet it well, opens a peace the world cannot grant and cannot take away. This peace is not passivity. It is presence. It is power. It is the strength to rise without resentment, to begin without bitterness, to forgive without forgetting. It is the choice to live fully, not because life is easy, but because you are free. Letting the world be is not giving up on change. It is committing to transformation from the inside out. It is becoming a model of the peace you wish others could embody. It is being a light in the darkness, not by denying the dark, but by refusing to be consumed by it. The Stoic walks with their head held high, not because the path is easy, but because their spirit is anchored. They let the world spin around them and move through it with intention, slowly, mindfully, rooted in reason, centered in virtue. They do not need everything to make sense. They only need to remain aligned with their purpose. To live this way is not a denial of life's difficulty. It is a deliberate, masterful acceptance of it. And within that acceptance lies more joy than in all the false comforts of denial. There is clarity. There is compassion. There is freedom. This is the Stoics' final teaching. Let the world be and remain unshaken within it. Not untouched, but unmoved in your resolve. Not immune, but unbroken in your commitment to live with strength, to choose virtue, to keep showing up. Let the world be and live in peace. That is how the Stoic endures. That is how they rise. That is how they are truly free.